So milk bread. Milk bread is all over YouTube. I've learned how to make it from watching a video on YouTube, and you know what? It's really good. There's a lot of great videos out there if you want to learn how to make it. Great. Today, we're going to take the same method that we're going to use to make milk bread. So essentially, we're going to make milk bread. And I'm going to use it to turn it into the ultimate version of Panipopo, which is a Samoan dessert, which is basically a bun that is baked in a sauce made with coconut milk and sugar. And what you get at the end is basically a kind of like a cinnamon bun, you know, with the icing soaked, but with coconut. And it's delicious. I'm going to show you how to do it right now on the Aimless Cook. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make what's called a Tangzhong, which is a roux, essentially. That is the key to the texture of amazing milk bread. So I got a saucepan here. It's a small one on medium heat, and I have a 1/3 cup of all-purpose flour with 1 cup of water, and that's it. And all I'm going to do here is I'm going to whisk it over the heat until it comes together to make a paste. Now you want to heat this and keep whisking it to combine it really well. And in a minute here, I'm just going to switch from a whisk to a rubber spatula so we can get it thoroughly mixed. But as you can see, in a few minutes, it's just going to turn into a kind of translucent paste. And when it comes clean off of the side and the bottom of the pan, you should know that it is ready. Okay, so while our Tangzhong is cooling, I got a large mixing bowl here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, and I'm going to add 3 tablespoons plus 2 teaspoons of sugar, as well as half a teaspoon of salt. Now notice I'm putting it on one side of our bowl here, and also with that I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of instant yeast. Now I'm putting that on the other side because I heard somewhere that when you're making bread that the two should not be together or you'll kill the yeast with the salt. So whatever, I'm doing that. So as we move on here, I'm going to get another bowl here where we're going to put about 120 grams of the Tangzhong, and we're going to cool it down by putting in a little bit of milk. So we have half a cup of milk that we're also going to add here, and we're going to whisk that to combine. And as that mixture is cool, I'm going to add 1 of 2 eggs for this recipe, and we're going to continue to whisk it until it's all really well combined. So I got my stand mixer set up here with my dough hook. And what we're going to do is we are going to add the wet ingredients that we just whisked to the dry and mix together to make a dough. I got this thing on the first level speed. This is going to be a stickier than usual bread dough, but that's all good. And what I'm going to do after that is I'm just going to let it combine. And once that is good and combined, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of room temperature butter. And then I'm just going to continue to mix until this dough is smooth and elastic and comes clean from the side of the bowl. So if you have a stand mixer, this should take about 8 to 10 minutes. So now our dough looks really good and smooth, so I'm going to get it onto a clean surface, and I'm just going to knead it by hand for a few minutes into a large round. We're going to shape it into a large round, and we're going to pop it into the mixing bowl, this time well oiled, and I sprayed the top of it with oil as well. And we're just going to cover this and let it proof for about 1.5 to 2 hours. Now you're not really looking at it for it to double in size, because with this dough it really doesn't, but you'll be able to tell. Mine took about 1.5 hours. Okay, so after our dough has proofed, I'm going to turn it back onto the work surface and punch out the air. And at this point, I'm going to roll it into a large rectangle. And if you're going to make a loaf of regular milk bread, divide it into 4 equal parts. Now if you got your kitchen scale, now is a good time to use it. It'll make your measuring more accurate. I'm going to make buns, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it into 8 equal parts. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to divide it into my 8 equal parts, roll each part into a ball, and let them rest again on the surface, covered for 15 minutes. Okay, so while the dough is having their 15-minute break there, I'm going to take this opportunity to take a 9x9 pan and buttering it. Now if you're going to make your standard loaf, you get your loaf pan and you're going to butter it at this point as well. Okay, so after these guys have had their time to rest, we can take them and roll them into their shapes. And all we're going to do is we're going to take each round and roll them into small rectangles like we did before. And with those rectangles, I'm going to fold them by the longer side on the top and on the bottom towards the center by a third. Now if that doesn't make sense, just watch what I'm doing. I'm going to take that roll again, flatten it into another rectangle, and then this time we're going to roll the rectangle by the short side all the way up. And from there, we're going to pinch the seam together on the end, and that is going to be the shape of our buns. Or if you're going to make the loaf of the regular bread, those are going to be the sections of the loaf. Okay, just here it is again closer so you can check out what I'm doing, and hopefully you can follow along. Okay, so now that I have my shapes all done and made, I'm going to arrange them into our buttered pan. Now since I got 8 here and it's going into a 9x9, it's going to be a little weird, but I figured it out. So once we do that, we are ready to make our coconut sauce. Now if you're making the regular bread, all you would do is put 4 into a standard loaf pan right next to each other along the bottom, and go on to your final step. So once my shapes are put into the pan, I'm going to proof it one final time for 30 minutes. And while I'm waiting there, I have a can of coconut milk that I'm putting into a small saucepan on a medium-high heat with a half a cup of sugar. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to gently heat this until the sugar is dissolved, at which point I'm going to add a slurry of cornstarch and water. So I got about a teaspoon or so of cornstarch with about 2 tablespoons of water. And I'm just going to thicken that up with a whisk. And when that's done, I'm going to set it aside. Okay, once our final proof is done, we are on the home stretch. And we're going to do that first by brushing the top of the loaf with a mixture of a 1/4 cup of milk with 1 egg yolk. Now if you're doing the loaf of bread, that is what you're going to do, and you're going to pop it in the oven for 25 minutes at 355 degrees. If you are making the Panipopo, of course, we are going to be pouring in 2/3 of the coconut milk into the bottom of the pan. And then we're going to brush the top with the mixture from the milk and egg yolk, and then pop it into the oven. Okay, now you have something that looks a little like this. And yeah, I know in all of the recipes they say you should let it cool before you cut into it, but yeah, right. So from here, we're just going to add some more of that lovely coconut sauce to the top of these buns, just so that they match the bottom, because they're all gooey from having all the sauce at the bottom of the pan. Now we added some shredded coconut as well, but I think a better addition is roasted sesame seeds, because that adds a bit of nuttiness to this that gives a good contrast to the sweet on sweet. give this a try. Big ass piece. Wow. So you got this fluffy, super fluffy, soft bun soaked in this coconut syrup or coconut sauce, which is like really good. It's not too terribly sweet because we cut the sugar in half from the original recipe that we saw, which is really good. The addition of the sesame seeds was totally like spontaneous at the end, but adds a lot of really good complementary flavor to the entire dish itself, because it kind of has that sort of nutty finish to an otherwise what would be really sweet and just sweet. So really good in that case. So all in all, I'm really impressed. It turned out really good. So that was our recipe for the ultimate Panipopo. I hope you enjoyed it. Take it with you, make it yours, and have fun in the kitchen, which brings me to my question of the day. Have you ever been to an Asian bakery? What is your favorite item at the Asian bakery? Let me know in the comments down below, and we'll see you on the next one.